Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to NG Asia Live. Today we are excited to have a very special guest with us, Mark Thompson, DevRel Lead for Angular at Google. Mark is a seasoned engineer and instructor using his gifts to and talents to help developers around the world grow, learn, and build better software. Today's topic is Angular in 2026. We will talk about the future direction of Angular, upcoming innovation, and what developers should focus on to stay ahead in the coming years. If you are joining us live, feel free to post your question in the chat, and we will try to cover them during the session. Now let's get started. Please welcome Mark Thompson.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy to be connected with our Angular community in Asia. So that is fantastic. I know for a lot of viewers who are living in Asia, this is very late. So I will try to make it exciting for you, and I'll do my best to not keep you up all night. I know it's been a long week, and so we will make sure we're having a really nice time today. All right, let me share my slides and then I want to share my screen and then we can get started. I think that'd be pretty fun. I did prepare a few slides for today, and then we can also turn this into a conversation just to enjoy with each other. So I'm excited to do that as well. Let me, okay, so I have that. I'm going to share here and we'll get right started. All right, Ilya, if you can give me a thumbs up to let me know that you see my slides.
Yeah,
Oh,
yes.
great. All right. So let's talk about Angular in 2026. First off, I will say this. What an incredible time to be a developer in 2026. I know there are lots and lots of conversations out there about the need for software development or the need for developers in the future. What's going to happen in 6 months? What's going to happen in 18 months? I don't think that's very interesting. I think what's interesting is what's available to us and what we can actually do. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But think about the fact that as a developer, we now have the tools to create things that we never thought possible. You see, because right now we're all thinking about, well, how can I generate an application that's already been created before? I can do that really quickly. Sure, you can. But what about the things that you wished that you could have done before, but you didn't have the skills or the time or the resources? And now we live in a time where we have the skills and resources and the tools, more important, to change the way that we work. And I think that's the really compelling story for developers. And I'll tell you how Angular fits into that story. Because I believe that Angular is ready for what's next in the developer world. As tools continue to evolve, the Angular team, we spend a lot of time thinking carefully about how to improve Angular in the right way. What are the configurations to build? What are the things that we need to do to ensure that developers are ready for what's next if they're going to build with Angular? And we're at a very, very special time for Angular as a framework. If you've been around long enough, which I suspect many of you have been using Angular for many versions, probably longer than myself, you know that we as the Angular team have come a long way. If you think about where we started from maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we were talking about Ivy in our renderer engine. And that was like the big focus. And then after that, that unlocked so much for us that the last 5 years, I feel like Angular is barely recognizable to the versions of the past. We've done some pretty significant things to make Angular ready for what's next. Let's talk about where Angular is today for some people who may stumble across this conversation and want to know more. First, we've added and implemented significant quality of life updates to the way that you author Angular templates. Think about things like control flow. Think about things like some of the other template updates. Then we've redefined and reimagined data and state management with signals, excuse me, with signals. Think about where we were before this and trying to figure out, well, how do I keep my state in sync? Because we had our magical tools, right? We had Zone.js that did a lot of that for us, but now think about what we've been able to do, how signals have changed the game. Then recently, we've brought complex UI patterns and made them simplified with Angular Aria. One of the big complaints that we always got was how difficult it was to take some of our pre-built components and style them for your application with your design systems. We changed that game with Angular Aria. Then the form story has always been this uphill battle for us. We've worked on it over and over again. First, we started with template driven forms, then reactive forms, then strongly typed forms. And we're still trying to reach this place where developers can manage their application data entry in a way that feels composable, smart, and ergonomic. So now we have signal forms powered by the magic of signals, powered by everything that makes signals great for Angular developers, now in a new forms format. And then, as much as you may love or not love, AI is here to stay. AI is a part of the development workflow. And instead of thinking about it as getting left behind, I think you can have a better time thinking about what can I learn? What can I do? And we want to make sure that Angular is in a position for developers who want to answer that question, who want to know what can AI do for me in my work? What experiences can AI create for my users? I don't think the full story is for AI to work in such a way that you go take a shower and eat dinner and then AI is working and we're just like not needed anymore. I don't think that that's the most interesting story. I think the really interesting story is what can we solve that we couldn't solve before? I keep thinking of that question. What can we solve that we couldn't solve before? And I think making sure that Angular is ready for that story is an important part of our future. So let's dive into some of these topics as we talk about Angular in 2026 and where developers should be focused. Templates are so much easier to work with. Think about doing template variables and structural directives before to try to create an else block. That seems so silly now when you think about what we have with our new control flow with ergonomic syntax like if and else. For loops are much easier to work with and much more performant with the new form. So I keep saying form. I mean for with the new for syntax. I think signal forms are really on my mind here. We also made templates better with things like you can now do regular expressions in templates. You can now add aliases on else if, just like people may have wanted to do. You can also add arrow functions. We just released this arrow functions in templates. Right. So things that you've been wanting to do, we've been working on making writing template code better for you. And even if you're using agentic workflows, let's turn over to state management. We already know that over the last few years, signals have become right at home in Angular. Developers love signals, and we're so happy to know that signals are improving the way that you write code. But we didn't stop with just the signal primitives or the foundational signals, as I'm calling them here, where you have signal computed in effect. What about linked signal so you can have dependent state? That's really interesting. So if your signal derivation depends on another signal, now you can derive it in a new way with linked signal. But then you also have asynchronous signals because right now they are all synchronous, but we said, there are a few cases where asynchronous signals are important. So now we have things like resource that you can do asynchronous tasks and still interact with the elegant and sophisticated API of a signal. And now you have HTTP resource, which allows you to fetch data asynchronously and have ergonomic, elegant signal API to work with as you're checking on the status of your data. Very, very cool stuff here. Now, if we look at the UI patterns, working with Angular material and the Angular CDK, we've had some really great features there, but it has been still very difficult. And you've let us know as developers in the Angular community, you've let us know over and over again that it is too hard to customize material components to match my design systems. Too hard. And you said you wanted components that you can customize, but you also want the power of the CDK, meaning you wanted pre-built components where the accessibility and the interactions were already done for you. Well, we're starting on that journey with Angular Aria. We already released a dozen, so that's 12 common UI patterns. 12 common UI patterns that have accessibility built in, and what you bring are the styles. So let's look at something like this toolbar. This toolbar, now, if you were a developer trying to make this yourself, you can already imagine that not only is it complex to get the ordering and layout correct, what about the accessibility? What about the keyboard navigation? What about the accessibility labels? All of those things are important. But look at what you have to import to use this right now, right? You get to just import the toolbar widget, and toolbar widget group. You import these and you get the basic functionality out of the box. So we call these headless components. So it'll show up on your screen, but it won't have any styles, but it will have the functionality. Now, here's the great part. If you bring the styles, you can create something like this UI. This UI just shows us the like a retro style that we included the styles in the function. But now think about how great this will be for developers, especially if you're using like an AI tool, like an agent to help code with you. If you use an agent, you could probably cook up the styles that you need to match anything with a lot less stress than before. And then you can continue building your great system. I mean, this is the power of something like an Angular Aria, where you get the components by themselves and then we bring in the styles. All right, let's talk about signal forms. Oh, these are so great. Everyone's really excited about what signal forms means for the Angular community. And we're very, very excited about this because they're composable. They're powered by signals. So the same signals that you know and love. They're interoperable. So they work with other form types. But here's the really great thing. I call them magical because of what they do for your developer experience. We want to take the best parts of template forms, take the best parts of reactive forms and signals, put those together to make something special. And we think that we've done that. And as many developers have already came and told me over and over again, they are so happy that there is no more control value accessor. They're so happy about that. So we want to continue the story. So let's look at a signal form in case you haven't tried it out yet, because we do know that it takes time to upgrade your Angular because you may have different feature or version requirements. So you might not have had a chance to try out Angular signals forms. So let's have a look at it together right now. First, you can define your data type like this login data, which is the email and password, and then we can create a signal using that type and then provide the initial values. Then our model is correct. We have a login model now. From there, we can take our login model and pass it to the form factory function. Now, this form factory function is going to take your signal model and then it will create a signal form for you based on it. You don't have to do additional steps here. The same fields will be available and they'll be ready for you to interact with. If you want to access them, you can access them directly by their names, which is really great. So when you're referencing them, you can just do that. Then when you're in your templates, look at how smooth this is. You can do your input, type equals email, and then you could bind to the form field keyword and then say, well, which field from the signal form goes with this particular form control. And now it's bound. That's it. That's it. The hassle and the struggles of some of the complexities of other form solutions, we believe that we've covered them and made them much smoother here for you as developers. Then when you want to reference one of these things in your actual template, you can just reference it by saying something like you use your string interpolation. You got login form dot field name, which is email in this case. And then we reference the value. Nice and clean. And you could do the same thing if you're back in your component class. or maybe in a service somewhere. You have that option, which is really, really smooth for developers. Um, let's talk about how do you build Angular with the next generation of tooling? Because we've spent a lot of time on our Angular AI story. Way back in 2025, which seems like so far ago, even though it was last year, but just because of how fast things move in this industry. It was only last year that I was at Google I/O, I was on stage, and I said, "Hey, introducing Angular.dev/AI." And it was all of this work that I ended up leading for the team into building our AI portal to make sure that developers were ready for the upcoming changes coming to AI. I had no idea that in 1 year so much would change. We would need so many things. Since then, we've gotten the MCP server. Since then, we are developing an Angular developer skill for agentic coding. So if you're using Gemini CLI, Claude Code, Anti-Gravity, or something else, you'll be able to get the Angular developer skill to help improve the output of your agents. And that's we have a PR open right now I've been working on, and it's open right now. It's getting to the last phases of review, so that's coming soon. And then here's another project that we and I'll talk more about this. Is the Web Code Gen Score. This is another project that we released that's open source for everybody, but has a very special thing. On Angular.ai, Angular.dev/AI, we have this robust portal where you can find information and guidance on how to build with AI, meaning the tools that you use, or how to build AI into your applications if you're going to use something like a Gen Kit, for example, or maybe an agent SDK. This is how you can do that. So we have guidance on how to do both, build with AI and then build AI into your applications. I think the best applications of the future will use a combination of both. They'll be built partially with AI and they'll have AI features that help your users meet the needs that they have. Available tools for the MCP server. We already have a list of tools like the AI tutor built by my good colleague Devin Chasanoff. He built the AI tutor, which can let you learn about Angular in general or within the context of your application. If you're using it from the an agent, for example, very, very, very cool project. You got find examples, you got to get best practices, we got to modernize tools, we got some experimental tools. So definitely check out the MCP setup on Angular.dev to know what else is available to you. Then we got the Code Web Gen Scorer. All right, so this is a really exciting project that we came up with. We wanted a way to know that our best practices files were not just what we thought, but actually produced better results. So we came up with an eval system to check on the output. This is super incredible. And one of the things that's really cool, that's a parallel effort. Minko Getchev, former DevRel lead, but still very much part of the Angular community, he just released a skills eval tool. And this is so incredible because everyone's making skills right now. We're making skills. But how do you know if the skills are good? How do you know if they're actually just eating up your tokens, to be honest with you, and producing junk that you can't even like benefit from? How do you know? So this eval tool is very exciting. And we're going to be using that eval tool to evaluate the Angular the Angular developer skill. And I'm also talking to this team, the Angular team, about the Web Code Gen Scorer, how we can build our evals for skills in there. So as we develop our skills portfolio, we have this. But guess what? This project is open and you can adapt it to your own needs because it's open source. It's not just made and combined to Angular. You don't even have to use Google models. We use Google models to do it, but you can use something else if you want. Right? This tool is for the people. This tool is for the community. Okay, so I just talked a lot about how we got to where we are now. Ilya, I don't know if we have any questions that we want to talk about from the community, or if you want to answer
Yeah, yeah.
questions. Like, so let's stop here because I have the roadmap, but I think we can talk about the roadmap and answer questions at the same time.
Yeah, okay, we have a bunch of a question. If you want, I can start
Yeah,
to read.
let's go through some of them.
Okay, the first question is from Mike. Okay, in your experience, which part of Angular development benefits the most from AI assistant? Components, testings, architect, or something else?
Testing for sure. Testing for sure is one of the easy wins that you get with Angular plus AI if you have a coding assistant. And the reason why is because people don't want to write tests. Like, so you usually don't want to write your test, so you already are at a disadvantage because you may have changes that are going to production that are not testable and you can't track regressions. So using it there is a good thing. Components has been helpful. I think architecture is something that is still subjective for applications, meaning I don't think any agent is really great at architecture completely, no matter what tool you use. I think we're still the best architects, like humans. I think we're still the best architects. And I think the way to use an agent for your architecture is to consult your plan with an agent versus having the agent completely design. Because if you like try to one shot an application, like the agent, the coding model may just like put all your components, I'm sorry, put all your like code in the app.html. Doesn't make any separate components, doesn't do anything. And it's just like, well, it works, which is maybe not the right answer, but then you have to go in and say, okay, no, move this to a component, refactor. Okay, so that's why I think we are still the best architects, and we know the systems, we know the context of our work environments, and we know what's really important. So that's why I think I like agents for generating lots of code, but when it comes to architecture, I like to be still designing the architecture and then getting input from agents on implementation of the architecture.
Yeah, okay. Next question. Do you think AI will significantly change how Angular applications are built in the next 3, 5 years?
Yes, I think it's inevitable because the models are improving at a rate where why would you need to spend your time as a developer doing things that will, it's like everything kind of becomes boilerplate in a way, right? Even your component like logic kind of becomes boilerplate once you know what needs to be done. So once you have the specifications, like I can just imagine like really smart specifications making component generation really quick and fast. Not perfect, right? I don't think perfection is what we're looking at. I think improvements in productivity are what's important, right? So when I think about it from that point of view, I think, yeah, it'll change the way that we write code, but I think that's a good thing because I think that it'll push us to build bigger visions. Right now, all we can think about is, oh, I can make this aspect of a popular application in a one shot over the weekend, right? I can like, oh, I can make like a chat app like Slack. Well, Slack already exists. So of course you can replicate what exists. What about what doesn't exist? You see, that's the interesting thing. What about the apps that do not exist? That's where I think AI and Angular, for example, will help you build scalable apps that don't exist yet. Problems that we could not solve. That's where I think the real future is.
Okay. Next question from Dilmurat. How are you personally using AI tools in your daily Angular development workflow?
Excellent question. Excellent question. I like to use Gemini CLI. That's I mean, I think all of our coding tools are great. I just say what I like to use. I like to use Gemini CLI, and usually, like I'm building some apps right now, for example, and I'm building the Angular skills for our AI tools. I use Gemini CLI, and I'm like, hey, I'm making this skill. Review the skill and tell me what's missing.
Mhm.
Like, but compare it to all the documentation in the repo, right? And then tell me what's missing. And so I use it that way. Right now, as this app that I'm building for an upcoming, for Google Cloud Next, I'm building an app. I use it there to not automate, but to speed up things that I know that want to do. Like, okay, make this card, right? I don't want to spend like 3 hours like making this card. You know what I mean? It's like I already know what the card should do. And then I refined the card code to do what I wanted to do. So that was an example of where I was saying like I asked it to generate this UI for me, and but I did it in parts. So I do things in sections. Some people like the whole agentic flow where you write your spec and then you say, okay, go and do it, and then come back and report. I haven't spent time with that yet. I like to do like, oh, okay, here's a UI. Make the header for me. Make the nav bar. Let's make sure this is all correct. Like I'm gonna review it. Let's make sure it's all correct. Okay, now let's make the sidebar. Make sure this is all correct. Okay, now let's make the main page. Make sure it's all correct. Okay, now I want a cart. Let's make sure it's all correct. Now that may be slower than full agentic spec driven development, but I know that it's correct because it's not 50 files to code review and I don't know how the parts work. You see, that's for me personally, because I feel like that's one of the risks with just completely automating is that you get so much code, you don't know what the design decisions were. How can you know? It's too much to review. You don't want to review the human code that you get right now. How do you, you see what I'm saying? Like we already have that problem. You don't want to review your human code. So you definitely don't want to review AI code. And then you could say, well, I'll have an AI review it. And maybe that's fine. But this is how I work right now. And I have been incredibly productive. And I think that the future of productivity is somewhere in between the extremes, where you have one end, which is like, oh, I only do like maybe autocomplete AI assistance, and the other extreme of like no human, all agent. I think somewhere in the middle we'll find the most productivity. I don't know if it's really one or the other just yet. I think it's still to be defined.
Okay, thanks. We have another question from India. Wasu Dev Nair. I wanted to know if it is a good idea to make use of Oxlint plus OxFMT in production for Angular production app, replacing ESLint to Prettier.
Yeah. Oh, right, right. So like the is it like the ox from Void Zero? Like I think they have some tools at Void Zero that they're putting out there. Uh, I can't speak to those tools directly, to be honest with you. So I can't say if it's a good idea to put in production yet because I have not tried them. And the team, we have not like tried to replace them in our workflow. We do chat with that team because they released a compiler. So I was actually chatting with Evan Yu about this recently about their compiler experiment that they put out. So stay tuned because I am planning some more information to talk about some of these things because this is very exciting stuff, right? Like, if their tools are as effective as they say in their like GitHub and their marketing, that's incredible, right? All this speed improvement sounds incredible, written in Rust and very fast and like, yeah, that's very cool, but we just don't know yet. So that one's an unknown. So that's a choice that you have to make if you but try it and then let us know what happens, right? Like that's one option. You can try it and let us know what happens, but but that's at your own risk, right? Because then that's with any tool. That's not because it's from Void Zero. Any new tool moving to production quickly is always going to be a risk. Like when TurboPack first came out, everyone asked the Angular team if we were going to put TurboPack in production. And we're like, no, because it just came out. We don't know what the long-term integrations are. How will it work with other tooling? So it's still new, but you should try it. I would definitely try it on like a hobby project and get a feel for it.
Okay. Next question from a Dilmar. What is a skill should Angular developer focus on today to stay relevant in the AI-driven development era?
Love this question. What skills should an Angular developer focus on today? Now, I'm going to tell you something that this is my prediction. This is Mark's prediction. So don't say that Google said this. Okay, Mark is predicting. I'm predicting that knowing what to do will still be valuable. Meaning, if you understand how Angular works, that will be valuable to you. But you also need to know how to use AI tooling. I think that's for every developer, though. I think every developer should know how to use AI tooling, but you should not give up understanding how Angular works. And here's a perfect example. I have an internal project that I can't talk about publicly, but I can talk about my experience publicly. We were trying to, so we were using some AI tools to kind of speed up our development. And we try to start the app, and the app's not working. And I'm like, man, what's wrong with this application? But the code builds fine. And we asked the model, like, what's going on? The model doesn't report back any direct issue because all the code is correct. What happened was we had an SSR application and there was a pre-rendered route. The route had a route guard on it. The code could not run because the route guard was not satisfied because it was on the pre-render side. You see, so like there's this kind of like niche like conflict because we had to remove the route guard because like wait, why would you route guard the pre-rendered in this way, right? But the logic was correct in terms of like the syntax was correct. We would not have found this issue if I didn't know how Angular works. You see? So understanding how Angular works is still going to be valuable, but I would also say start thinking about what does Angular architecture look like? Because if you don't have to spend all your time, right, writing components anymore, your time is going to be in orchestrating the system and bigger systems. Think about that. Like what does that world look like?
Okay, next question is from Dauron. If you were starting a brand new Angular project today, what would your stack look like?
Oh, great question. Great question. Let me see. Hold on one second. I've been sharing my screen for like the whole time. We don't need to share this anymore. We're not talking about that at this moment. I'll share it again if I need to. If I started today, uh, it depends on the goal of the application that I'm building. So it's a little hard, but I'll tell you what I would use, and I'll be honest. I'll tell you what I would use. I would database. I have been a Firebase person since before I joined Google, and you can look this up. I had a startup before I joined Google that I was leading, and my app was using Firebase back then. I've been using Firebase for years and years because I do believe it's a very cool product because you get so much. So for auth and data, I would use Firebase. Deployment, now they have a really good deployment story for full stack apps. I know before uh Firebase had like app hosting or they just had hosting and then if you wanted to have like a server you had to like do a Firebase function and that was like a little weird. Now they have full stack hosting, so I would start there with the infrastructures. I probably do full stack hosting with Firebase or Cloud Run directly for like from Google Cloud, because all these things are like very straightforward to like just kind of go with. And then yeah, and then for data management I would just do signals and a service. And the reason I say that is because a lot of these other libraries are very good, but you may not need them immediately, right? And so you can add unnecessary complexity by reaching for a state management library before you even deployed your app the first time, right? Like just use a service and some signals, and you do that. That'd be my stack to like get started today. And then as I like go forward, I would start thinking about well, what does dynamic UI look like? Because I think that's the future, right? So right now, if you think about user interfaces, right now you think about deterministic static user interfaces, meaning there's a screen that you programmed all the components to be where they are, like a home page, about page, contact page, setting page. You make that right now. I think the future is a user types a need into your application and then they are returned a custom UI. That's what I think the future is for like app interactions. So how do you do that? So I would start thinking about that. So there's like A2 UI that we made at Google. There's Hash Brown that was made by some Angular GDEs, and that supports Angular and React, right? Um, so I would think about that type of stuff right now. Like if I was starting today, so that's the question. I would think about what does my dynamic UI library look like, and then I would also think about what does my Gen AI library look like. Um, isn't it interesting that that is now a part of the story that like that used to be something that was only reserved for like very special use cases. Now with every application, I ask myself, is there a Gen AI use case? Right. And so
Okay.
what library will I use?
Yes, thanks. Next question. What is one Angular feature that you think is still underrated by the community?
Defer.
Okay.
Defer is underrated. Defer is from the future, and I still say that even though it's like 2 years old, Defer was built by the team, but led by Jessica Janik from the team. And when she showed it to me the first time, I couldn't believe that everybody wasn't talking about it. Just because the idea that you can say only load this part of my page when a custom condition is met. That's like what? You know how hard that is to do, like, because if you use something like Islands or Astro or something else, I mean, like, there are all these other configurations you have to do. And Angular, this is at the template level, right? That is just like, I don't know why that isn't the like winning story because it boosts your performance immediately. If you have a really big like chart or something that's like hampering your like first contentful paint or whatever, right? Like, um if it's making your metrics go down, you can be like, yeah, I'm gonna defer load it to a certain time, maybe until the user completes all of these like form fields, then I'll load it. You know, like what? That's so good. That's so good. I get so excited because I really do think defer is the most underrated feature in Angular. And then
Yeah.
incremental hydration a second because it's along the same lines, right? Of like you could pre-render a page and only hydrate small sections at your disposal. What? That's incredible. We don't spend enough time like talking about that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next question. What Angular ecosystem tools do you think will become essential in the next generation of Angular applications?
Oh, that's a good question. I do think, yeah, so I think ecosystem tools like Hash Brown, like dynamic UI, will become essential, right? So like Hash Brown, A2 UI, and all the other competitive. So like right now, those are two of the like primary ones, right? But there will be more solutions around this. People will catch on to this and start building. I think agent skills will become, well, the evolution of agent skills because last year we thought MCP was the full story, right? Oh, MCP is gonna like fix all the hallucinations, is gonna fix this. Okay, it didn't, right? And so now we say, okay, agent skills is so whatever agent, I think agent skills is closer to the right solution. And I think whatever that turns into will be an essential ecosystem thing. I think whoever figures out like architecture support better because like I said, I don't think models do great at architecture because they do really good at solving the like prompt. Like I think they're great at like if I want an application that does this, it will do it no matter what. You see what I'm saying? It won't take all the considerations to like make sure that it's like the best version of it. It'll say, okay, but I did it. And I think that, figuring out architecture, maybe a plugin that helps with that will be important too. But yeah, I think dynamic UI will be really important. I think data management will be important because the scale of applications will grow. Because that's what I'm thinking a lot about is how big applications will become in the future. Like there's gonna be some like really incredible experiences out there. Like I am just convinced that somebody's gonna say, "Hey, wait, we can do more than just like generate code to do what we do now." Someone's gonna think like, "I can do something that I never did before." That's gonna be so exciting. So I can't wait.
Okay. Uh, from a Vasudev from India, do you see Signals and the RxJS working together for state management?
Yes, because I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think Angular, when we started with RxJS, we were forcing RxJS to do something that it wasn't meant to do. We forced it to be the general state management solution when it was really for asynchronous, unpredictable events, things that could happen at some point, right? So think about it from that point of view. Something that could happen at some point, you want a good way to manage that. And then we had to build so much infrastructure in something like what's that library? There's a state management library that uses RxJS.
The
NGRX, is
NGRX.
that what's called?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
NGRX.
NGRX. So NGRX has to build so much infrastructure to force RxJS and observables to act like state when that's not what it was meant for. But we were just working with what we had. So I think that now that the use cases are now more well defined, like we have for synchronous data state management, you just use a signal. And then if you have something like, for example, a stream of events is RxJS, in my opinion. And now where do we stream events? Everywhere. Every time your agent is like sending you a new UI, a new message, a new this, a new that. That's a stream of events that you do not know what the predictability is. That is like a perfect use case for RxJS. And which is why we built our interop package, because we do believe like, yeah, you might want to convert, like you might get a stream of events from RxJS, you might want to convert to a signal because you're like, okay, I want to do something different with this data that I already have. Or you might say, oh, I got this like the static data, not static, this what's the synchronous data, thank you, synchronous data, and I want to go to some type of like stream over time. Okay, I can go that way too, so I can go both ways. So yes, 100%.
Yeah, okay, last question from
Sure.
last from a performance aspect for data heavy application, how I can optimize Angular. I use a GCP platform, which I assume is also built on Angular and have faced lags for huge data loads.
Yeah, so GCP, Google Cloud Platform, is built with Angular. Yes. So how to optimize? I mean, there are lots of ways to optimize your application, to be honest with you. So this is a really hard question to answer live. So what I would say is one, first things first, check out angular.dev, and we have an optimization section actually. And then there are some very smart GDEs out there. Like you mentioned some of them, like the pre-show we talked, like Rana Hanekamp, and you have other people like Michael Klatke who are like optimization experts. I would look those folks up and I would read some of their writings about optimizations because they have spent so much time optimizing Angular. Because I know like somebody like Michael Hlotky, Hladky, that's how you say it, spell his last name, Michael Hlotky. He a few years ago had showed a private demo of Angular without zones before we did because he was so interested in like the performance aspect, right? So what that means is check out the community for a lot of support there because there are a lot of people who've written about this and have made lots of good content about this to help you out there. But good question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I have a one more question in
Ask as
chat.
many questions as you want.
Okay.
We're doing good on
From
time.
yeah, from a facial user, and
Hmm.
username is a facial.
Hmm.
So what is the future of Angular with the SAP composable front in the coming years?
Send me that again.
What is the future of Angular with the CAP composable storefront in the coming years?
I'm not quite sure what this person means. If they see this, they can reply with more details. I can try to answer. I'm not quite sure what that question means.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure. But we could talk a little bit about the future of Angular. We got a few minutes left.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
sure. And if more questions come in, I'll answer. Just interrupt me. But I'll say like if we looking at I'm looking at the roadmap right now on my screen. Um, so we're gonna continue the story with AI. And I know for people that that word is either like exciting or terrifying. You know, if people are excited, like, oh yes, I love it, or no, it's slop. We're trying to avoid the slop part. You see, so we don't want to make features for AI that don't help developers. We're thinking a lot about and this is where the community can help us. Tell us what you want to see. So that way we can make sure that what we make doesn't feel like we don't care, doesn't feel like useless, because you all matter to us. So that's the whole point. The AIM community is important to us. So we're trying to meet you where we think the future is going. We think code gen is really important. So we're going to keep working on that. The compiler is something that we're going to be working on. There's a TS Go compiler And so we're going to be continuing like looking into that because that's really exciting that the Microsoft team is making a Go version of the compiler. We're working on that. Signal forms, we introduced in experimental, but a lot of people really want to use signal forms in production. They're like ready right now. Okay, just wait. We're gonna move signal forms to production. That is our goal, to move signal forms to production. Same thing with Angular Aria. That's another thing that we're hoping to move to production, like refinement, because Angular is in such a great place to build whatever you want. We fix so many of the problems. And sure, it's not perfect, but nothing is perfect. And we're not going after perfection. We're going after um, efficacy, like making it as effective as possible for you to build great applications. Change detection, we got rid of zones, or we made them optional. I don't want to say got rid of. That sounds like not honorable to the zones. Zones were a very good solution for what they offered at the time. So I want to make sure we say that. Um, but now we're thinking about change detection and zone less, and now we're doing things like moving components to on push by default, right? And renaming the default change detection from default to eager, so people can know the difference. And yeah, and we got other things that will come up. We'll continue quality of life improvements where we can, and we got a lot of good ideas there. So okay, let's see. Okay, I saw that. Uh, oh, I don't know what this means. So let's see. Oh, that. Okay. I don't. Okay, so my answer is still I don't know because I'm not familiar with SAP components. Composable, yeah, SAP compose. I'm not familiar with that technology. If you tag me, if this is a really important question for you, person who asked, tag me online, like tag me on Twitter or something with at Mark Texan, and if you really want to know, and then I can start to do some research and find out some answers to this. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have any more question yet. So yeah, yeah. Thank you. So if can we finish or
Yeah, that's
no?
fine. I think the people have heard me talk long enough. I think they're ready to to get some rest. I know it's late for you folks over in Asia. Can I just say thank you so much for having me? Please invite me back or invite the team back. We'll be happy to come back and support. Um, Good luck with everything you're working on, and I hope that this is the beginning of continued growth for this community. Thank you so much.
Yeah, to us it's very honor to have you. Thank you, Mark, for sharing your insights and experience with us today. It was a great session and very valuable for Angle community. And thank you to everyone who joined us live and participated with your questions. If you enjoyed this session, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share with it other developers who are interested in Angular. We will see you again in the next Asia Leave session. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.